Hey guys, welcome back to Max's Fearless Youth, where we combat mental illness and substance abuse through the arts. I'm Katie.
And I'm Ollie.
And today we're going to be interviewing Michael Dederick.
Hello, folks. How was everybody today? Nice to be here.
We're good. How are you?
I'm doing okay today. It was a beautiful ride up here, coming up from Marlboro, and the leaves are coming off the trees. It looks like a beautiful Hudson Valley splendor.
So tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, I've been a chef I'm 55 years of age. I've been a chef for probably 35 years of my life. I stopped counting, graduated the culinary back in 91. I would have to be remiss to say that one of the cornerstones of my life today is 7 years of sobriety. I don't think I'd be here without it. So, the industry has been very good to me over the years. It's certainly very challenging, but it gives me the ability to kind of work through a lot of different things through just cooking with food, working with, nice, clean ingredients, and understanding that the importance in my passion is mind and gut. So, yeah.
So how did you start? How did you find your passion for culinary?
Well, I was in high school. I was probably about your age. I was 16, 17 years of age, and I was working at a hardware store. I was working as a painter, contractor, and then all of a sudden I took this job as a dishwasher. And as the industry goes to show you, there's a lot of high turnover rate. And the dishwasher, as soon as I became a dishwasher, I moved over to garde manger because the salad guy left. And then soon after that, I worked on the line because the line guy left. So every time there was an extra void, I was a young and eager kid and was growing up, and I liked the hours because it was later at night. And kind of got caught into that, the bright lights and big city type of stuff early on. And then I did come back down to earth because the industry does have its demons that you have to be. It took me many years to figure out, but it's out there, yes. As Anthony Bourdain is my, reason I got into the industry, and of course we all know him through his beautiful show, and unfortunately we also know how he left us. So, yes.
Both of us have a passion for culinary as well. It's really awesome to hear your story of how you started, honestly. How has culinary and your career changed your life as a person, and what struggles came along with it?
Well, in dealing with my career, I've always been a little modest about it. I mean, really, it's a lot of chefs have a lot of what they call ego. I've always been a person that's tried to negotiate how to build a kitchen. I'm a big avid hockey fan. I used to play hockey, so understanding on how to build a Stanley Cup team, you have to use a lot of interchangeable parts. So therefore, you have to have your skill set and your skill set and your skill set, so everybody can come together as a team. And that's kind of what's been my strength over the years. I've been able to be very interchangeable and be able to do what I call eclectic international cuisine. So on my current menu right now, I probably have at least 7 different countries represented. So you can have the taste of India, you could have the taste of Latin America, you could have a good old American barbecue, or, I have some, French Asian fusion. It's all there. I find it's nice to develop a person's palate. So much of our palate today is built on a laboratory. And it's so much greater when we realize that importance of that and become well around about especially sugar intake and stuff like that we have in our diets right now. The standard American diet isn't quite the healthiest for you.
Sugar is everywhere.
Literally everywhere.
And, they ketchup as a vegetable somehow just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. There's something missing there. Yeah. So, as they say, we're blessed in the Hudson Valley because we have, the beautiful CSAs, beautiful farms. We have beautiful restaurants. We have the quote-unquote flagship of the culinary world and the gastronomical world being the CIA up there in Hyde Park. And, of course, we're in the shadows of perhaps arguably the culinary capital of the world being New York City, where you have everywhere from the bodegas to the high-end restaurants on Park Avenue that are arguably some of the best in the world. So it's been a journey like that, and it's helped to prepare me for a lot of the stuff that I'm going through within the past really decade of my life to 2 has been perhaps the most challenging as I got older, and started becoming more adulting.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your struggles outside of the career and how you coped?
Well, the elephant in the room for me is always that when I was August 28th, 2016, I lost my 17-year-old son to suicide. So there's, as I put it, there's the guy I once was and the guy I am now, because the person I once was doesn't really exist anymore. Now I've had to realize that, I'm going to actually get to something that I prepared, because it's actually, my mind gets a little sketchy because of some of my issues and stuff. But I like to say that darkness has been one hell of a coach. It seems to me that as we love, we grieve. That's just the deal. That's the pact. Grief and love are forever intertwined. Grief is a terrible reminder of the depths of our love, and like love, grief can be non-negotiable. We're all carrying around some trauma, unresolved conditioning stories, unconscious behaviors, chronic conditions, and deep epigenetical wounds. But I think these labels and experiences keeps us from really experiencing life fully. But I think with the right type of therapy, and after all, they say 75% of the people who enter into some sort of therapy, whether it's art therapy, whether it's brain mapping, whether it's talk therapy, whether it's working with a psychologist, 75% of them get results. The problem we have is only 1 in 8 actually seek help. So there's a big disconnect in that. But I think that there's just so many different modalities out there now more than ever, especially with the introduction of AI and some even meditational maps that you can get on your phone and some different types of things that you work. And I've been using all of them. But it's important to understand when we're dealing with this, there's a uniqueness to everybody. You have your story, everybody in this room has their own story. And what works for some person might not work for the other. So it's important that you find a way, whatever works for yourself, and I believe it was Aristotle that once said that educating the mind without educating the heart is really no education at all. So I think we have to learn as our society to kind of intertwine these two things. And that's been my journey since my son passed. I still look at him as here. I actually have him in my pocket. I took some of his ashes, and we talk about art. I took it to a glass blower, and he blew glass into my son's ashes into glass, and it sits on a shadow box at home. I had a few pieces made, and he gave me one in a marble so I could take it with me wherever I wanted. It's easy enough to put in your pocket, and it's a pretty amazing thing when we start to connect those things and understand that there's no way other than through it, right? So, I've always believed in there's like 5 building bridges towards better mental wellness and mental health. And I've thought about it to be, some of that to be considered creating emotional muscle is what I call it, is like the ability to kind of deal with what life's throwing at you. Unfortunately, I was kind of throw punched by the universe with the story of my son, but I had to have compassion for myself. It took me a lot of time, and still to this day, I still shoulder a lot of guilt, because what is a father supposed to do but to save his son? And I feel that I was not able to. But how do I get beyond that and beyond the screen and beyond, to give myself some of that resilience? One of the things I have at my son's altar at home is I promised him perseverance. It still sits there to this day, that I was going to have to find a way. And then after that, I went to what I call the mind as a teacher. It's a little Thich Nhat Hanh type of thing. I became a Buddhist. Has been a little bit of my following only because of what they call Bardo. Bardo is the transformation to the other side of 49 days. My Christian upbringing didn't quite bring me to that, because it was a little bit too much fire and brimstone for me. And of course, I looked at my son leaving. What kind of God can do that, right? So I was a little angry at at that for obvious reasons. But, when I said mind is your teacher, you find meditation, you find stuff like yoga, Qigong, some of the ancient arts. One of the greatest ones I found, especially here in the Hudson Valley, and it really ties to the native tradition here, is called the sit spots. The sit spots in nature is when you just sit. You go to next to a waterfall and you let nature come to you. And you'll be surprised. You'll see deer walk up to you. You'll see, I've seen foxes, I've seen bald eagles, all in this idea where I just paused. No flight, unjudgmental, non-judgmental acceptance of whatever it is, whether it's deep sorrow, maybe it's a great memory. My son was 6'4", 215 pounds. He was a big boy. He was playing football, starting tight end in South Carolina for a team that was ranked 7th in the nation. They play it hard down there, But then I also feel that there's a certain part of it that has to be this peace council. This peace council that we kind of create within ourselves that helps us with, navigating these difficult waters and these difficult paths that sometimes life can throw at us. And, we have to understand to rather than go at that with, in the agitation, the Native Americans speak about do not work in agitation because that's when the water is cloudy. Allow it to settle so we can see more clearly. And, and again, that peace council kind of goes to the idea of, being the change we wish the world to be, and then the idea is, the idea of knowing, as Shakespeare says, know thyself, to thy own self be true, right? And, I look at that as, our discretionary thought, to take our experiences and compound that with the wisdom and then be able to come out with rational decisions. And let's just say I'm 55 years old. I still struggle with that one, just because. And, there's, I forget it, one of the ancient philosophers once said, he who knows others is wise, but he who knows himself is enlightened. So, of course, the fifth one that really rounds out my building bridges to what I call the mental health is really the food is medicine, medicine is food. I drink raw milk, half gallon each week. I get down in Gardner, New York. I drink kombucha. I make fermented foods, kimchi, sauerkraut. I feel if this ain't right, then this can't be right, right? So, or if this ain't right, then what am I doing down here that isn't making this right, right? Am I getting too much on my, over the summertime, ice cream kicks, right? You don't get between me and a thing of Haagen-Dazs or Ben & Jerry's, right? But, I have to say that one of the things that has really helped me when I really felt so dark and lost, because I got stuck. I got stuck in the loop. I got stuck in the loop of my son and not being able to be there. And what broke that loop, in my opinion, was not just my sobriety. That was, as I said before, the cornerstone. I could only go in this with clear eyes, right? But the idea that the brain mapping. I had my brain mapped, and it was a swim cap experience, with little electrodes coming out of your head. And it decided, as we took pictures and see where my brain is going, the addictive part of my brain, the impulsive part of my brain, and the trauma part of my brain were all on reverb. It gave me insomnia. It obviously showed me where my impulsive moments were and spurred on many of my addictions and stuff like that. So, as I say, it would have been brilliant to know this when I was your age. I really feel that it would be better to have that as our first, line of defense for kids in mental health, to actually have this set up in schools, where clinicians can come in and they could hook you up to just get a snapshot, just to see a snapshot to where a thing is. Is it something that needs to go further? Or is it something that is, you're just okay and you're just working through things? Because it's helped me within that to do breathing exercises, to be able to stay calm in difficult situations. Simple things, touching your fingers to your thumbs or certain things like that. Satanama becomes very soothing to you. And if you do that repetitively for like 12 minutes, it kind of helps alleviate a panic attack. Stuff like when you're in a difficult situation of havening, of just kind of giving yourself a hug by wiping it all, the energy away, throwing it through here. And these are all the things that, I see what it does to the brain when I'm actually doing it, and she's got me hooked up. You could see everything rather than going, it starts to get, the idea is it's just supposed to be a little bit more just like a nice ocean, right? Just like the rolling seas, not the jagged waves. It's supposed to be, just kind of nice. And if it's really good, the monks get it right down to like a tight line, where they're deep meditation and like that's just like boom, and where we become like nature is fluid, right? So.
So you mentioned something about off camera about a left and right brain.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. Well, we all have it. We have our the frontal lobe, which is the stuff that's the biggest part of it, which separates us from the rest of the species on the planet. I think we have yet to know. We know more of what's on the bottom of the ocean, which isn't much, than how the neuroplasticity of our brain actually works, because our brain is not only just doing what this guy did to set this place up, but it's also blinking, it's heart rate, it's giving our heart rate, it's feeling the table, feeling the clothes on our skin, and it's doing everything. And when it starts to misfunction, where we become too much right brain supported, that's the bean counter. That's the logistical part of our brain where we want to find reason. The other side is the part that becomes the artist. It's a little bit more freewheeling. We really want to be, it's kind of a little bit on the impulsive side, but not, more serendipitous, I want to say. I think there's some fine lines and definitions on how that goes, but I think it's important that we find that thing that kind of stirs your soul, stirs your bliss, at the great John Campbell used to say, as, find your bliss. And that, I believe it is also called like the awe-inspiring moments. Like we're mentioning that when you get to a vista and you just have this overwhelming thing of just optimism, where you just look at this, wow, look at the beauty that surrounds us, And that's kind of that left brain where it's letting go of all the, the idea of the rationality of everything and just kind of allowing ourselves to be, dare I say, human and not so automated. And I think it's so important in this day and age that we can find a way to be, that left and big to become completely fluid with each other. And that requires to kind of, I don't know if you know a guy named Leonard Cohen was able to, through music, to flow into, through his words, to throw into the darkness, into the light, and just was able to kind of live both ways, which is, that's, sometimes they say that's the cost of a good life, is to be able to kind of, no mud, no lotus, as the Thich Nhat Hanh says. You always have to go through that darkness to get to the light, right? It's written in a lot of songs. Bob Marley, I think, says it too. But I think it's important, and that's like our key on how we can really, move forward as a society. Really, I mean, and I've always believed, as an advocacy for mental health, and that if we can change a child's mind, we have the ability to not only change that child to become a better brother and sister, but then later on in life, a better boyfriend, girlfriend, later in life, a better parent, better son and daughter, so we have this ability to kind of change multi-generational if we can find ways to kind of embrace how our brain works. It should be taught in early school age. It could be done in so many levels, from from history to English to science, of course. But the idea, because it's, like I said before, it's involved in everything we do. And that's what we really need to do to move forward with it. And now that we have AI, we don't really even have to be too exact anymore. AI is going to do it better than us. So let's build the left half, the creative half. Let's get the juices, because that's where the magic happens in my eyes. That's truly where the magic happens, because the songs, we were mentioning it before, that new Beatles song, how, if you've heard it, it just invokes emotion to you. And there's not a lot of art. Art does that, right? Invokes a deep-seated emotion. Food does that. You have reminds you of what your grandmother cooked, or, it reminds you of something. It just invokes that positivity and that sort of thing when it's done right. And that's the beauty of art. It kind of embraces that side of the brain, whether it's through painting, whether it's through music, whether it's through culinary arts. I would even argue to say I work with a lot of contractors that are masons that still consider themselves craftsmen, and artists in a way. And I'd have to agree, it's if we can kind of embrace that a little bit more, and stop being the bean counters of trying to figure everything out, you know? Yeah, this has been a wonderful experience. Yeah.
I just really love how you answer all the questions I'm going to ask. Anytime I think of a question, you like just answer it immediately. And it's really nice talking to you.
Well, thank you. It's you know, there's some sort of intuitive in the restaurant business. You have to be able to anticipate, right? Because my job as a chef and a server and a manager and all that type of things is if you're the customer and you're asking me for something, a fork, a glass of water, then I'm not doing something right. I should be already presenting that to you and either, oh, thank you so much. I was about to ask for this, right? So the industry, as some of its pluses, is the idea that you have to be a little bit, you know, fish eyes, as I say. You have to be able to see not just in front of you, but what's going on around you. So
A lot of interesting things I haven't even considered before. You know, the whole mind mapping thing, I had no clue that that's like an actual thing that people can do.
And her office is right here in Kingston. So it's really good stuff. And as I say, I truly believe that it is some of the future. As I say, there's so many things out there now, but I really think that that's the thing. In my eyes, it's non-invasive. It doesn't have, big pharma in the mix somehow. And, there's a talk about, how do you know what the brain is doing unless you look, right? The psychiatrists are the only doctors that don't look, right? The cardiologist looks. The pulmonologist looks. Your orthopedist or your neurologist look. You know, they're all using these devices, but the psychologist is throwing darts in the dark because you too could both be suffering from depression and anxiety, but yours manifested differently than yours. But how would I know? Because I'm just going by points. But if I took a picture and did some of the research on it, I would realize, wow, your depression manifests itself this way, and yours manifests itself this way. Two different modalities might be necessary for the same treatment in a way, right? So I think that that's what that gives you, is that clear map about, it doesn't fix it. By no means does it fix it, but it gives you the map, right? So it gives you the idea that, oh, wow, now it makes sense. So that's why I feel that's why it's been near and dear to me. So thank you again for this. This was a magical experience. Yvonne, it was a pleasure meeting you off camera here, but she's the one that makes it all happen, right? Yes. Beautiful stuff. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste.